Hey guys, welcome to another what I'm going to call series of top dog reviews, off-road reviews, where I take you along with me on a pretty challenging Colorado trail in the top dog off-roader of a certain brand. And this time I've got this. It's the most off-road worthy GMC Canyon you can buy. And that is, of course, because it has this in the name. It's the AT4X Canyon, which is the most, like I said, off-road worthy Canyon you can buy. Now recently I've taken the Wrangler 392 up here. I've taken the Ford Bronco Raptor, and today you're going to join me as we start at about 11,000 feet. So if I'm out of breath a little bit, please forgive me, and take it all the way up to above tree line. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything I like about this truck. And at the end, I'm going to tell you one thing I don't like about it. And it's not what you're thinking. It's not the price. I actually think the price is pretty affordable. I'll show you that in a second. So let's talk about what makes this truck special. First, it's that volcanic red. I am just such a sucker for a candy apple red paint job. And this is just a beautiful truck. That paint is optional. I think it's about a $600 option, but I just love the design. I love the squinty headlights, the blacked out grille, the nice round little fog lights, and I love the stance of the truck. I think it's just about perfect. The ATX4 Canyon gets you a 3-inch lift with these 33-inch Goodyear Wranglers that are nice and meaty. It also gets you these beefy, well, I'd say the side steps, but they're really not. They're more like rock sliders. And of course, for you familiar with the Canyon and Colorado twins, you now get these Multimatic DSSV shocks. Now they compete, of course, with the more off-road worthy Fox shocks and Bilsteins, and they use spool valve technology, which GMC will tell you is better. Is it better? Well, we're going to find out when we go up the trail. Now, this truck does compete with the other top dogs in the midsize truck world. I'm talking about trucks like the Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, the upcoming Ford Ranger Raptor, and of course, the current and newly upcoming revised Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. And I think out of those three competitors, at least in my mind, this is one of the more handsome of the truck, especially the interior. Let me show you the inside of this truck. They've really done a good job in combining interesting colors. We've got the red that's been brought in around the vents. You've got these really interesting white accents with this red French stitching, AT4X sewn into the side bolster, more red there, more white there, red accent stitching on the steering wheel, red accents along the side of the manual buttons, which I love. I love this white leather accent with the red French stitching along the side. It's just a very nice place to spend time. How nice of a place is it to spend time in the back seat? Well, I've got my seat all the way back because that's how I roll. So let's see how I do in the back of the truck. Now keep in mind, the problem with a lot of mid-size trucks is headroom, and the back seat tends to be straight up. So headroom is a problem. But keep in mind I'm 6'2", but the back is pretty comfortable. It's not straight up. There is a little window back here so you can let the air in. But in general, if you have the seat all the way back, it's pretty tight back here. But then again, I don't spend a lot of time in the back of a truck. If you really want a good crew cab, and by the way, that's the only way you can get this, it's a 4-door crew cab. And if you want a lot of room in the back, probably move up to a full-size truck instead of, a mid-size truck. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the bed. Over at All TFL, we're going to have a full towing review of this. So if you're looking for that, you've kind of come to the wrong place. What I will do though is look under the hood, because if you like 4-cylinder turbos, then you're going to love this truck, because the 2.7 4-cylinder turbo is the only engine option that you can get in this, or the Colorado twin that Andre of course has. Now we're looking at an 8-speed automatic. As you can tell, I've been off-roading it, so I apologize for the dirt, but hey, that's what happens when you go off-roading. It puts out 310 horsepower, and get this, 430 pound-foot of torque, which is a lot. Now in the Colorado, you can get the same engine that puts out a little bit less power. I believe Andre's Trail Boss has that, but you can tune it up. But the AT4X, being the top dog, only comes with the 310, 430 pound-foot of torque tuning on this 4-cylinder turbo. Now, let's look at the sticker and see how much this costs. We're looking at, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. We're looking at a total price of $58,640. It's got two options. Like I said, the volcanic red paint job at $645, and of course the sun roof, which is powered at $1,000. Otherwise, you're looking at 16 MPG combined, which isn't grand, but I'm getting better than that. So let me start up and show you what kind of fuel economy I'm getting, and then I'll kind of show you through some of the tech here, because there is a lot. So there is the dashboard, and I'm averaging 16.2, so I'm not getting better, but keep in mind, I drove from Denver up here, which is all uphill. My best has been 29.6, which may have been, going downhill. Now, like I was saying, we're at 11,000 feet above sea level. It does have a bunch of off-road different screens on here. Baja mode, which shows you where your front wheels are pointing. Terrain mode, which kind of gives you your pitch and roll. And I like the overlanding mode, which gives you a compass and how high we're going. Now, I've done this trail a bunch of times with you guys, and I have to say I've never exactly known how high we go, so we're going to find that out. And by the way, this series of videos is brought to you by our friends at Onyx Off-Road. And if you're looking for this trail, which is called Deer Creek, just outside of Keystone, just get their software, download it by clicking on the link below, and then you can store it to your phone, and you can go the exact same route that I'm going. And even if, like my phone, you're offline, it still stores the maps in the phone, so you'll never be lost, which is a good feeling. All right, let's talk about, you zoom out, the digital screen here. Now, you can customize it by hitting this button right here. Obviously, there's Google Maps, and it actually has, I like that. Let me show you. Hold on, zoom in. Unknown road. It's called Deer Creek. It's not unknown, but Google doesn't know it. That's why you want Onyx. And then that changes the layout of the screen, which gives you kind of a different setup, RPM going across. Down here, always, you're going to have kind of your mode where you're in 4 high or 2 high. This is kind of the off-road mode that manages to kind of get also shown up here. One of the things that I do like about this is this selector that lets you pick the different kinds of modes. So you've got off-road, which I'm in. You've got tow haul mode. You've got terrain mode, more like rock crawl. You've got Baja, if you're going to do some high-speed desert running. You've got normal, and you've got off-road. We're going to go back to off-road. And to go from automatic to 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low, you put it into neutral, and then all you do is press 4 low, and then things happen over here. That starts to flicker right there, and when you're in 4 low, it'll tell you, and I'm just in 4 low, which is where I want to be at here on the trail. Of course, you've got all kinds of different, you've got all kinds of different cameras, so home cameras, and once again, trail in front of me, trail behind me, so I don't back off the trail. kind of a bird's eye view on the side, and then there's some towing and trailering. I don't know why GM calls stuff trailering. Now I'm saying it. They say trailering instead of towing, but you've got towing cameras back there too. But I'm going to keep it in this one. Now, the one thing that I don't like is what's missing here, guys. Can you see it? Yeah, it's missing a stalk where you normally have your headlight controls. What they've done is they've put the headlight controls up here, right there, which is not grand because it's weird to have them in the screen, especially if you're used to this. It does have a lot of buttons for the HVAC, but why they decided to get rid of the headlights and put them into the screen, I don't know. One of the cool things I do like about it is this button. Check this out. You push that, and all 4 windows roll down. How cool is that? I think the newest Fisker has that feature too, the electric car. Now, you would think that by going like that, you'd roll them back up, but no, you got to go like that, and then like that. Not grand. Now, probably the thing that I like the most about this truck are these 2 buttons right there, which is a locking rear diff, and get this, a locking front and rear diff. Now on this trail, I'm not going to need to lock the diffs. We're not going to do any rock crawling, which would be hard to do by myself solo. So I'm just going to buckle up, put it in gear, and we're going to see how this truck does going up this. I'm going to call it, I don't know what Onyx calls it. I'm going to call it a 5 out of 10 trail. The thing I got to say is that it always looks easier on camera than in real life. I think I'm going to go, let me do one more thing. Let's go to my cameras. Where are my cameras? Where are my cameras? There we go. Now I can see where my front wheels are going. But it always looks kind of easier on camera than off camera, but there are some pretty big boulders. This truck has a total of about, I believe, according to GM, 10.6 inches of ground clearance. And if you, let me show you something here. Look at this. Look at these. Let me zoom in a little bit. You see those 2 logs right there laying on the ground? Those are probably a foot tall, and I'm not going to go over them, but if, let's say, you had a car with less ground clearance or a truck with less ground clearance, that would be an issue. It's also kind of hard to show how much we're climbing, so I hope to show you at the end of this video. Besides telling you what I really don't like about this truck, I also hope to show you at the end of this video how high we've actually climbed when we're done. Great breakover and approach angle. The AT4X comes with all sorts of protection underneath, which even if I didn't have a great breakover, these are very big whoop-de-doos here, I would be afraid to take. Just for point of reference, we did try to take the Ford Lightning up here when we had it, the electric F-150, and we didn't even get to the start of kind of the uphill section of this trail because it started to basically drag its belly on some of these rocks, and when you got a belly full of batteries, you don't want to be dragging it. How does it drive? Overall, I gotta say I'm impressed. It's good throttle tip-in control. I feel like in 4-low, I've got good control over my speed, so I can just barely crawl if I wanted to, like that, or if I wanted to go quicker, or it flattens out a little bit, I could do that as well. Yeah, it's good. Now 310 horsepower. Of course, there's a saying: people buy horsepower, but they drive torque. And 310 horsepower is good for, let's say, a 0 to 60 top 0 to 60 speed of about, I think officially it's like 6.5 seconds, but really it's all about torque because people drive torque, and the torque is what allows you to climb up these rocks and up these hills without a lot of fuss and bother. I did not air down. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to show you. Let me stop for a second. No one's on the trail. It has this nice, I think it's under off-road controls here. Is it over here? No, maybe it's a little confusing. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's right there, air down. So if you wanted to air down, you could set an air down number, and then when you hit that target, I believe what happens is it honks the horn. Go back to my headlights. See, why do I need all these different headlight settings when I could have them right there at my fingertips instead of having to hit home and then, where's camera? There we go. I don't get it. I guess the cost of this stock, is one bridge too far for GM accountants, because you get to save that. But I would much rather have that. All right, so where were we? Oh, we were talking about torque, and this truck just has oodles of it. Now, I know $58,000 seems like a lot for a mid-size truck, and for all of you guys who are newbies to the truck world, trucks come in, used to be 3 flavors, and now it's kind of 4. Compact trucks like the Maverick, mid-size trucks like this. By the way, the Toyota Tacoma owns this segment, sells the most, about 250,000 units every year, or 250,000 Tacomas are sold every year in the U.S. That's a boatload. And then, of course, you get into full-size trucks, F-150, Silverado, Ram 1500, and then heavy-duty trucks. So once upon a time, $58,000 would have been a lot of money to spend on a full-size truck, let alone a mid-size truck, which is smaller, has less towing, has less room, has less payload. But I think this is a year of the mid-size truck. It's just the right size, because today's mid-size truck is about the size of a full-size truck from 2 generations ago, which, let's say 10 to 15 years ago. Mid-size trucks were much smaller, and full-size trucks were about this size, maybe 20 years ago. So this has really become kind of the sweet spot in the truck market, and it's become hugely competitive. And the off-road part of it has become extremely off-road competitive. So like I said, this competes directly with the Tacoma TRD Pro and the new Pro. If you've been following TFL, look at this turn, no problem. If I had my lockers on here, I'd be crabbing a little bit, so that's why I'm not. And this is, by the way, trail number. Let me zoom in on it for you here. Oh, come on, zoom. Trail number 5. Here, just out of Montezuma, if you want to come and do this. And it's a beautiful trail. It eventually goes up to Radical Hill, the top of it. And this is, believe me, the way you want to get to the top of Radical Hill, going up the other side. That's the one trail. I've done most every trail here in the Montezuma Keystone region because it's close to Denver. I've never gone up Radical Hill, and I'm still terrified to do it. So whatever it's worth, this is the best way to get up there. But we're not going that far up. It'll be a very long video. Anyway, so Tacoma, of course, owns that section owns that segment in a lot of extent. I believe, if I remember right, the Colorado Canyon twins were selling at their best maybe of 100,000 units. So the Tacoma outsells them, more than 2 to 1. Now with the new Ranger coming out, there is going to be a Ranger Raptor, which will directly compete with this truck. And then there's going to be an even higher version of the Tacoma, which, if you want to check it out, go to All TFL. We profiled it in the program where we went and actually just saw the unveiling of the new Tacoma. Now, because I have an air down, it's a little bumpy, and in my experience, these Multimatic shocks, which, by the way, GM will tell you, have come from the Formula One world of racing, are more for desert running than they are for kind of this rock crawling, and they do have this magic option of becoming a little bit more compliant the faster you go, but really you don't want to go any faster than this here, so that is not going to be helpful for us. And one of these days we are going to have to do a direct comparison with the Fox and Bill Steins, and I think that video is in the planning stages to see exactly which of these 3, let's call them, once again, top dog, top tier shocks is the best. But overall, I'm very pleased with this truck, and like I was saying, I don't think $58,000 is actually all that much money nowadays for a truck with this much, capability. If you wanted to actually build this out yourself, just getting let's say a front ARB air locker, if they made it for this truck, which I don't think, that would cost you probably $5,000 or more. And so when you can get all this from the factory, it's at least from an off-road point of view, it's quite affordable compared to if you had to build it out yourself. And of course, the nice thing about not having to build it out yourself is that you get it warranted from the factory. And they've engineered it so that it all works and all hopefully keeps on working. I think that the one thing I'd walk away from this review is just how solid this truck feels. It's incredible that GM has now managed to build a truck that's very akin to, let's call it a G-Wagon, where it feels like it's made out of one piece of metal. It just is really solidly built. You hear, I'll just shut up, and I'm going over a pretty rough terrain right here, rocks and boulders and dirt. Do you hear any squeaks, rattles, anything besides my seatbelt tensioning and untensioning? I'll shut up and you can listen. Isn't that remarkable? No rattles, no squeaks, except for the seatbelt. Now, maybe if you, I'm not sure if this comes out, on my lavalier mic, but the one thing, there's two things I don't like about it. And the one thing that maybe you can hear in that little segment is the engine note. And as much as, 4-cylinder turbos, even a 2.7 liter, are very torquey, they sound flatulent. I gotta say, it just sounds a little farty. And I'm not saying that the old baby Duramax or the old 3.6 V6 that you could get in the previous generation of this truck, sounded glamorous or glorious. I mean, there were never, things that you'd be like, hey, I need to put a MagnaFlow exhaust on there to really, bring out the tenor of this powertrain. But they didn't sound flatulent. But, with less cylinders, less weight, I was going to say better fuel economy, but 16 is not grand. I think that's because we're, 3 inches taller, rolling on very dedicated off-road tires. All right, so this is where usually we end up the video. The trail continues to go up there and eventually to the top of Radical Hill, or you can actually make a big loop and come back down to the little town of Montezuma on a trail called St. John. But let me pull over here where I can pull over, and I'll kind of give you the one thing that I don't love about this truck, because I do love almost everything about it except for one small silly feature. So let me see if I can pull off into this pull off here. There we go. No problem whatsoever. This truck was not whatsoever, it's 2 whatsoevers in a row, challenged by this trail. There is a little bit of plastic-iness. I don't mind that. It's not bad. There's some things like, there's this thing that is, why? Just why? Why would you do that? How long is that going to last before it disappears? For some reason, my phone charger, and I've seen this in other GM products, starts charging and then just turns itself off. You do have these mystery controls, which I love. Jeep, actually, Stellantis has them as well behind the steering wheel. I know they're not mystery. They control the radio and the volume. It's really nice to have them back here. And you can surprise your kids with loud music and a change of station if that's something that you're into. But I'm going to show you the one thing that I don't love. And people have commented on this before. Now, keep in mind that we had a Silverado Trail Boss for a long time, so I'm really worried about saying this because the Trail Boss, oops, didn't turn it off. There we go. The Trail Boss also had this issue, but then when we drove it a long way, it became a non-issue. But the one thing I don't love is right there, the seats. They're just too firm, too hard, and even driving it up here from Denver, I got really antsy sitting in those seats, and I just felt like I couldn't make myself comfortable. And that's a shame because everything else about this truck just is really, I'm going to use a word, sexy. It is one sexy beast. And it's got all the off-road stuff that you'd ever want. I mean, look here. You've got your recovery hooks and underneath there. That's not plastic. Andre and I just did Tundra TRD review, and you know, it had a plate, but the front of it was very low, making for a bad approach angle. Look at this. They've even cut out this area like the previous generation, which gives you, you know, the ability to hit rocks without hitting the front. Very thoughtful design. I love the looks of these rock sliders. And sometimes people comment on GM vehicles that the base of the shock tower hangs down too low. Here it hangs down pretty low, but it's really far inboard. So it doesn't seem to be such an issue. Now, let's look at how high we've gotten, and then we'll give you a quick peek at how beautiful Colorado is in the summer. So, I think we started about 11,000, and let's go into off-road mode. Let's go into overlanding. Oh, almost 12. 11,762 feet above sea level. And what's always incredible in Colorado is I'm up here out of breath, and then somebody comes running by just to prove how very fit they are, or more like it, how very unfit I am. Well, guys, thank you for joining me for this, I'm going to call it Top Dog Off-Road review of the new GMC AT4X. And I have to say, I'm impressed. I would certainly put this truck on my shopping list. And you know what's coming. We're going to have to take this truck and the Tacoma TRD Pro and, of course, the new Ranger Raptor and put them all together and just do a day's worth of off-roading and see which of these is the best. But look at this stunning view. Oh my God. This is definitely a picture postcard, especially in that volcanic red. All right, guys, remember, go to All TFL, check out our friends over at Onyx Off-Road, and I will see you next time. Ciao.